And welcome to Life Support Live, the live show that explores how Star Trek can help us to boldly go in our own lives to better ourselves and the rest of humanity.
As a famous starship captain once said, and as another famous starship captain once said, wherever our mission takes us, we'll try to have a little fun along the way.
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Ali Matu.
Yes, you are. And I'm Dr. Trek. And one of us is a real doctor.
But who might that be? We'll leave it to you to decide who that is. Hello, everyone. On this week's episode, we're talking about on-the-job training. I'm really excited for this one, and this is inspired by the last week's episode of Lower Decks, which we didn't get a chance to talk to last week. We were away last week. So let us know in the comments, what's your favorite example of a show that featured a story that featured on-the-job training? But before we get to that, Larry, what is this intrepid enterprise that we are on called the Life Support Live show?
Here we are. We're so defiant as we Lexington our Constitution.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. I know it's been kind of, hey, here we are at a regular 10. I want to say, yay, we're here at Saturday, 10 a.m., normal time again. Yay.
It's been a while.
Like a year and a half into this situation. No, hey, Life Support Live, if you are new, please stick around. We're going to have a lot of fun geeking out on Star Trek with this topic. But so some takeaways you can take away with you to daily living. Mashup, we say mashup of Star Trek and mental health, but don't worry, there's no couches, there's no quizzes.
I wish there was a couch. That'd be a lot more comfortable than my chair.
But we'll have a lot of fun. We actually have some structure, which we're going to try to get back to today. We're talking about Star Trek. We're going to talk about our topic, and you guys have a chance in the chat, as always, to chat away. We'll really open it up at the end of the show at our hailing frequencies, and I'll throw a K3 factor at you. What is that? Well, you'll see. But it's probably something from my deep dive background in Star Trek.
Deep dives, backgrounds, that's a lot of the show. And we have an amazing community here. For all of you who might be joining us for the first time, please jump in, join the community discussion. I would say it's the third host of the show is the community over here. We've got such a wonderful community. So thank you everyone for being here. Larry, you know what we're gonna do here?
Ali, what are we gonna do?
We are going to do something called the briefing room. This is the part of the show where we dive into other stories that span all of Star Trek that really featured this idea. And this idea that we have on-the-job training came from last week's episode of Lower Decks. Larry, I love this episode. I really had so much fun watching this episode. And for those of you who, I know last week...
Holodecks, is that what it's called?
I have no clue what was it called? It was not called Holo Pursuits. But it featured the holodeck heavily, and this was an episode in which, not to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but I think a lot of you have probably seen it by now. But our crew over here had to go through these trainings, these evaluations, to really get a sense of where they're at. The lower decks kind of switched with the senior staff, and the senior staff had to play the role of the lower decks to better understand each other, and they went into these little tiny holopods and had to complete various missions, from Borg assignments to the mirror universe, all the kind of situations that Starfleet officers
watch
might
out.
be in.
Someday, in a year or so, CBS Home Entertainment is going to offer a set of all the Inspiration episodes.
Oh, of course they are. Of course they are. Do you remember those? They had like the Borg collector set. Right. They had the Romulan collector set. Yeah. I thought that was a brilliant cash grab on their part.
They're just aiding fans for their own research. That's all they're doing.
I saw that and I'm like, I will never purchase this because I'm just going to purchase all the episodes. Then I can make my own Romulan set and Borg set. Haha. CBS/Paramount/Viacom/ I don't know.
Well, the carpet's always grayer on the other side, which is my favorite line from this episode. Yeah.
This was a great episode, and so this episode got us thinking about a lot of different themes that we could explore, and then the theme here, what we try to always do with Life Support Live, is we try to always take this
Stick
inspiration.
to the script. Oh, what?
No, that's never something we do. That is not a thing that happens at Life Support Live. But one of the things we try to do here is take inspiration that might help us to better understand our own world, better navigate through these difficult times we're in. And this idea of learning and growing at your job and what you do and having to quickly take on new responsibilities, that's something a lot of us have experienced and will continue to experience. So we really like this idea of on-the-job training.
As opposed to, as you started to say education or training,
Yeah.
and I said yes, but like everybody goes to school.
Yeah.
We were rattling off. You were rattling off all the academy moments, and I was
Right.
like, no, wait a minute, that's easy.
Right.
Let's go to, yes, after you graduate or after you leave the classroom in real life, IRL training.
Yeah, and so
And
not only
the
yeah.
feedback that you can get in that, not just the teacher looking at, a professor looking at you.
Yeah, and I love that perspective because it is so easy for us to go into Starfleet Academy moments, and then we can rattle off the same old episodes and the moments. We can all talk about the first duty of every Starfleet officer is to the truth, Larry.
Oh,
We
I
can
love that line. Somebody should use that sometime.
it's great. I should really write a script about that.
Can you say it in British? It'll make it even better. Okay.
In British French, because in the future, France just completely surrendered to the British. So that's what happened over there.
We'll surrender, but you are stuck with our silly French accent. No, we are not. Yes. Okay.
So let's kind of start exploring here, Larry. And why not begin?
Well, I want to say one thing
please,
first.
please say only one. That's
Okay.
all you get.
Now, this is on topic. This is very much on topic because we've missed some weeks. We've gotten behind on episodes to our strict theme. We haven't worried too much about it. But when you say this is, and obviously on the job training, that was a big part of the theme of 2 weeks ago. But I just want to say what we're getting at here. There is a moment in in Wej Douge, 3 ships, which was awesome too. Many people are proclaiming it their favorite of all Lower Decks so far, and many people are proclaiming it an instant classic, by the way. So that's this week's show, not to be spoilery.
Yeah.
But there is a moment, and I sent you an image. There's a moment from this show that includes another flavor of on-the-job training. Did you see it?
Oh, yeah. You're talking about this right here.
When people look at it as a moment of character arc here for Boimler, where a cadet who's a cadet on assignment to the Cerritos comes in and asks, he does the thing you do in training, which sometimes it's not formal. It's the informal learning training curve, which is you find somebody who's an expert, or you find somebody who knows way more than you do, and who has the time maybe and the goodwill, and you just ask for some pointers, outside of a formal situation. And that's what young cadet Spiffy does here with Boimler, which is ironic because Boimler is the lowest of the low decks, but he's the whole thing about being on the Titan now. They're playing that art. But to me, it struck me as, oh, look, here is a little moment of another flavor of on-the-job training, your own initiative, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and I love the mentorship that's being highlighted over here. I love the
Mentorship. That's a good word. They should invent that.
there's a lot of great comments coming in. Jared is talking about how Boimler got really good at dealing with the Borg. There's Nathaniel is mentioning great topic. There's been a lot of development on Boimler. He's really learning a lot, and I think one of the things that he
It's really
learned.
sad to watch Mariner stagnate the way she's been doing. So
Yeah, no, I mean, and just wonderful development on her end with especially her relationship with her mom. But Boimler learns in that moment that he has something to offer, and he has something to give and to share with this. Is that a cadet? I'm that uniform I haven't seen since Wesley wore in
It's looking
TNG.
like second season Wesley. So maybe
Yeah,
maybe the Cerritos has an
acting ensign.
I don't know, but they
It's
didn't really say.
Yeah, they didn't say it must be an acting ensign. But I love that Boimler says, the lower decks is what keeps the ship going, and he's got so much to offer and share there. So I'm loving the character development we're getting over here. And you're right, Larry, that is another great episode of on the job training that's happening over here. But let's kind of explore the canon here.
Caught up. That's what I did there. Did you see how I did that? I got us quasi caught up with episodes.
You did. You
Yeah.
you absolutely did. Nice tomfoolery there, Larry. Let's go back. Let's go way back. Let's go back to TOS.
This is the first thing that struck my mind when you said on the job training or training. This is the first moment that hit me was Chekhov's little private briefing here. This is not a classroom. They've taken this promising young ensign aside and given him a briefing, in the teaser of Trouble with Tribbles, obviously, and they get some jokes out of it in some moment. But if that's the kind of thing that's happening, does that happen? Does the captain and first officer sit down and have a mini classroom briefing with every ensign? No, only the ones that came in second season with a good contract. But
Well, yeah. I mean, if you really look at that moment and think about and extrapolate, yeah, this must be happening all the time. And this is something I think that gets extended on more in TNG. We see Riker and Troy more in this role, but even Picard. I'm gonna evoke. This should probably be added to the drinking game rules over here, but I'm gonna evoke the Barclay clause. And one of my favorite things about the Barclay clause, that sounds like an episode of Lower Decks. Barclay gets turned into a cat, and our good doctor has to come to the rescue, and something ensues. I think that's
here comes Barclay Claus. Here comes Barclay Claus.
right down Barclay Lane. Gosh. So I had a point, Larry. What was okay. In the first time we see Barclay.
Yes.
What episode is that? What's that called again? That episode, Star Trek Next Generation, probably like season 4.
You wanted to which Barclay show?
The first episode, the first time we meet Barclay.
Oh, Holodiction. Holo Pursuit.
Holo Pursuits, right.
Yeah.
And so Geordi's like, Commander, I can't work with this guy. He's kind of doing that. And Riker is saying, Captain, I don't know why he was transferred here. I think we got suckered. We need to send him back to another ship. And then Picard is like, find a way. Make it work, And I don't know. That was a little Picard, a little Tim Gunn. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing here, Larry. But we see the captain's involvement in nurturing the crew, in supporting the development of the crew, whether it's in TOS and we see Kirk and Spock here with Chekhov, or if it's TNG and trying to support this transfer officer. The point I'm trying to get across here is Starfleet is an organization that is very much invested in its personnel, in the development of its personnel, and a good functioning team. And that is something I think we see throughout every iteration of Star Trek, is people really care about the people on their team and advancing them and cultivating them. That's always been a part of Star Trek.
That's how you could tell that Barclay was going to be a recurring guest star, because no one ever gives anybody in the crew that much, a rough time like that. This is going to be a diamond in the rough. It's going to stick around. Let's watch this. Yeah. He must have an agent. Yeah, this crew.
Well, and he certainly does. Chekhov certainly does stick around for quite some time over there. Jared says, I thought Barclay Clause showed up in 10 Forward during the holidays. Yeah, where Barclay... Jared, I'm going to tell you a secret here. You want to know where Barclay Clause lives? He lives in the Nexus, where it's always Christmas.
In the North Nexus.
In the North Nexus, yeah. Hey, speaking of the Nexus, Larry,
Hey.
our very own beloved Captain Kirk is going into space. Did you see that?
Oh, that guy. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Obviously, yes.
That's a big deal. A little aside, but I gotta say, I'm very excited. William Shatner will become the oldest person to ever go into space, and the first. No, not the first Star Trek actor to be in space.
Well,
We've had
yes.
yeah, we've had astronaut become actor. This is the first Star Trek actor become astronaut. Yeah.
Space first, fake space second. But yes. So this time around. Well, yeah, not to get off on that, but I was kind of amused at how I think not Star Trek World is more excited about that than Star Trek World. But anyway,
Yeah.
all good.
I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited that's happening. But we've got a lot more examples to come from or to talk about here.
They remember to install the photons on Tuesday, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, can you imagine Shatner strapping into the Blue Orchid? Hey, you got safeties on this ship, right? Safeties. Not arriving till Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
He's like, well, it's Monday. You got plenty of time. Yeah, no, we should be good. They're arriving tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, Larry, back to the show. Page 2. Let's talk about Saavik. But we're not talking Wrath of Khan. No. Let's talk about Star Trek 3. And
Yeah, you threw this one out, so you tell me. There's a Saavik.
Well, that implies I had my example fully fleshed out here, Larry. So obviously, Saavik goes through a lot of on-the-job training, but it is in the beginning of Wrath of Khan, and over the course of Wrath of Khan, Saavik learns a lot about the lessons that Kirk was trying to teach her. But I think the Saavik of Star Trek 3 is in a very different place, and not only is she. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, she's at a different place. She's on the Genesis planet.
Genesis forbidden. She overcomes the forbiddenness of Genesis. No, I think what I was trying to get at with Star Trek 3 Saavik is. She's clearly in a place where there are no known answers. There's no right way to go through this. There's no clear path to pursue. And she's having to learn in the field on this rogue mission what to do. And I think that speaks to on-the-job training in another sense when there is when you're tasked to do something where there is no training, you don't know there's no instruction manual.
I was going to say, where there's, like the last 15 years have been. That's the way I look at it. There are no rules. There's no manual. Yes, we're writing it. Oh, yes.
Yeah, and so that's where you have to rely on a lot of the ethics, the morals, the principles that you've been taught, and you have to rely on some of the basics. This gets back to what we talked about. We talked about with McCoy a while back when like his practice of medicine, he was often encountering species he's never encountered before, and he's like trying to piece together everything.
That's why the original series.
Yeah. Those old scientists. He was trying to piece together what he knew from his training and the field work he's had. But that's another aspect of Starfleet officers that is inspiring to me, is they're constantly in these situations where there is no training. It's all like figure it out in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least the ones with the show. A lot of them have very boring lives, as we've seen on. Yeah. Just for a sec, did my audio get better?
It sounds the same to me.
I'm getting your notes, and Scott just was noting me on the side, and I don't know why, because I've got I'm so Skype has me up. I'm going to just take a second to check this because
Check to make sure it's the right mic is going out.
I mean,
Can you
I
tap your mic? Let's see if we. No, it should be. I think it's the wrong mic is coming out.
oh, that's the speaker. Wait a minute. I've got my Skype. My microphone is. Oh, it is. How about that?
That sounds a lot better.
Which was this? This was the system sound. Why did it go to? That's weird. Okay, sorry about that, everybody.
Yay! You are better now. Okay, so Larry,
you have to look in 3 places, Okay.
Speaking of Kirk, I'm gonna jump the timelines here a little bit. I'm gonna go to every Star Trek fan's favorite film, which is Star Trek Into Darkness. Let's talk about this. Now, I know there's a lot of a lot of stuff we can talk about in this movie. There's a lot of problems with this movie, especially with Khan. Why they got the whitest, most British man to play the South Asian actor? I don't know.
Because he was hot. He was hot that year.
Yeah, yeah,
it was hot.
But speaking of hot, let's talk about this moment. Mm-hmm. And this is the moment where Kirk is trying to rescue or save this planet and save the civilization there from destruction. And they've got this elaborate plan to kind of freeze this volcanic blast, something like that. They end up being seen by the people there. And in the last moment of that scene, you see how they are no longer, they're sort of abandoning some of their cultural beliefs in favor of the Enterprise. And having seen this Enterprise, the Enterprise has definitely influenced the development of this culture, which leads to Pike really lecturing Kirk about the Prime Directive and about what the real purpose here is, and of making those tough decisions. It's a little bit of a callback to the previous film about having to face death, but here it's framed in a very different way. That you can't save everyone. That we do have this Prime Directive. That we have to make these tough decisions, and that's another example here of another aspect of on-the-job training, and this is something I'll talk about more in the counselor's log, but Kirk is getting direct feedback from a far more experienced, higher-ranking superior. It's like his supervisor who is saying, here's the line, you just crossed it, here's why it's bad, don't do it again, and by the way, you're not going to be able to do it again because I'm taking that captain chair away from you.
I was going to say, it was a very, very, very diplomatic way you said. Oh, look, it's direct feedback. Yeah.
I do. I like that scene and I like that moment because it brought back the Prime Directive in a big way in the films. So that was really great to see. And I've got there's some things I like about that film. There's some things I really don't like about that film, especially Benedict Cumberbatch being cast in that role. But we can move along. Move along.
You just wanted some color there, some red. I'm wearing my OU red today, by the way, because the OU game is going on. Where am I?
You are. What's the update on the game, Larry?
They're coming back. It's 28-17 here. There was a horrible start. So anyway, but we won't go into sports ball.
28-17. You know where my head went to? I was like, oh, wait, what happens in the timeline in the year 28-17?
Oh, we've long skipped over that. We bypassed that. There's only 830 years now to fill in.
Oh, I like this comment from Cairo. Cairo, good to see you. Enterprise was a whole series about on-the-job training, in my humble opinion, as they had to learn all the time how to deal with what was out there. That is a great point.
And that is why I thought it was pointless to pull anything from Enterprise today. Get the whole show. Just pick an episode.
Well, and if we think about what could have helped the humans to do that stuff better. Can you imagine if the Vulcans were a bit more supportive in kind of sharing their knowledge and their information, and they were more like guides as opposed to, gosh, what are they more like? They're kind of like,
Biology? No, we've got nothing special to report on biology. No, not at all.
like if you're exploring an area and you have a guide who shares all their knowledge and kind of walks you through it, that's kind of what would have been preferable. They act more like protectors who really don't want you there, who know they can't get rid of you, but they're trying anyways. Um,
It's like they have the version of a Vulcan smile pasted on the whole time.
Speaking of Vulcans, I loved this week's episode with all the different lower decks we saw
Mhm.
in the Vulcan ship. That was great. I should say it wasn't all Vulcans. T'Pol really did act much more in that role as a guide. So, but yeah, Cairo. I think Enterprise has a
Well,
lot.
that's why she was the T'Lyn of Enterprise.
Um, very true.
T'Lyn was your standout Vulcan. Your raging crazy person among all those Vulcans was the very. Did you notice she had the Valeris style, the King
Yes,
style?
yes. I really like that.
I'm
Yeah,
just glad nobody went over and force melded with her. That
yeah.
wasn't like a total portention of what to go there. But anyway, but yes, you should. So yeah, that's interesting thought, Cairo. That all of you know what, Enterprise wasn't always on the job training, and it should have been. Where Enterprise got sloppy was where they pretended they were TNG light or TNG early or something. So
Well, one of my favorite episodes of Enterprise is the second episode. What is it called? Is it Fight or Flight? Is that the name of the episode? Um,
pollen in the cave.
Paul is in the cave. What's great about that episode is how scary it actually is. That they come across this alien ship, and it's terrifying. It's kind of the first time they're in that situation, and I'm blanking on the character's name. Linda Park plays
Oh,
Hoshi. Yes, thank you, Larry. Thank you. I need more caffeine.
I thought you were going to go into the guest cast or something, but no, I could.
No. What are the principles? Um, it's it's the first time she's ever in that position, and
Mhm.
she has so much to learn about just managing her own sensations, her own fear of being in that place. It's really a great example of just how much there is to learn about being in a new role. Larry, if you will indulge me, um, uh, on a little tangent. When I was in my last year of training, I was working in a hospital, and I did a rotation, which was on a palliative care oncology clinic, and it was the first time that I was in more of a hospital unit. Usually, the rotations I had were in outpatient care. This was inpatient, so the difference is, people who were being in the hospital overnight, usually more intense or severe situations.
Scheduled versus unscheduled.
Yeah, that's one way to think about it. Sometimes scheduled surgeries and things like that, but yeah, you probably don't want to be in patient care. So that was one of the big differences. The other big difference is there's no comfy, cozy office. I'm walking bedside to bedside with the patients. One of the first things I had to get used to there was the smell. Hospital inpatient units have a unique smell. It's all the sterilizing agents, all the cleaning agents to make sure it's a clean place. I had to get used to that. I wasn't used to that. I had to get used to being on my feet all day as opposed to like sitting down in an office. I had to get used to the sounds, the constant beeping of all the machines. There's so much that goes into
That's
being in a new job and being in a new role.
There
And
are no couches in the ER.
there
Yeah.
are no couches in the yard. No. Um, and so, and that was, I did work in an ER after that rotation, a lot to get used to there too. But one of the things that I like about Fight or Flight is you see Hoshi having to deal with some of those kinds of things that I think often we take for granted with the other Star Trek series because these people have been in space for so long.
Hmm. They have their space legs. Yes.
They
You
got
did-
their space legs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hoshi most certainly did not.
So, should we move on? We
Yeah,
skipped to
yeah.
Enterprise, but because we didn't have and I'm trying to keep, I got off to a slow start in the chat, so I'm trying to keep the chat in mind.
Yeah, why don't we talk about let's bridge the Next Generation with DS9 with Worf.
And you know what? Someone mentioned the obvious one from TNG, which was so obvious, I forgot to pull the picture of it. But it's the other, after the Chekhov moment, the other thing that hit me was Troy and her command training,
Oh yeah.
which we have had echoes of ever since. But that was a case of Troy was taking her, advanced training for command. I started to say Gates already had, Crusher already had, but we saw the feedback. It wasn't just the fact that she was doing it. We saw what the feedback circuit looks like with Riker, and having to do that to a friend and a fellow peer,
Not just a fellow peer, but a Imzadi.
Yes.
We talked about this episode in our prep and in our very extensive life support live prep, and this is one of my favorite examples of on-the-job training for a lot of reasons. One, again, another example that Starfleet really encourages the growth and development of all of their officers. The bridge training is available to any qualified officer. Anyone can take it. And so that is amazing. I love the way they do it. Again, it's holodeck combined with in-person feedback by a real officer who has many years of command training. And I love that that Troy struggles with it a bit. And struggles with some of those questions of the consequences of being in command, of the consequences of making those decisions. Larry, I really love that. I love that episode a lot for
All right.
so many reasons.
Yes.
And it was also the first time I saw a mental health officer being put in this role of command, which later pays off with Commander Cornwall, or Admiral Cornwall in Star Trek Discovery, who's now a...
Cornwell.
Thank you.
I always have to remember that. I just want to say Cornwall, but yeah, or Cornwallis.
And I always need to be corrected from you. I always make that mistake.
You know what? I'll let anyone correct you.
Thank you.
Everyone has my yeah.
You're so generous, Larry. But it's wonderful to see then another mental health officer now in the role of Admiral. So I love that episode a lot. But the TNG character we want to talk about is also a DS9 character. We want to talk about Worf. And so when Worf comes aboard DS9, he is wearing his yellow strategic officer. He's wearing his yellow uniform, and he's acting in the role of a strategic officer. And by the end of The Way of the Warrior Part 2, Sisko does say, like, put on some red. Or he doesn't say put on red, but, like, Worf walks out in red.
Well, they decide to have him reassigned to DS9. And
Right.
while he's at DS9, please wear red. Yes. So.
Commander, over here, you must wear red. That is my horrible Benjamin Sisko impression.
It was.
Yeah.
Next time, try saying it with a baseball, but okay.
Yeah.
We'll think it's better. Yes.
Yeah, I can do a much better Romulan DS9 impression. It's a fake.
Yeah, that was much better.
But what we see to talk about this episode over here, we see Sisko really having to give him a lot of feedback about how to be a commanding officer. I mean, Worf is Worf is like, in many ways, the least Klingon, because he's like, his beauty rest is being very much disturbed by the noises on DS9, and so he goes sleeping in the bunks on the Defiant. I mean, what?
But there's nobody on the Defiant. I know.
I know. It's
Yeah.
such a Worf thing, right? To do that.
Is that what the warriors in the barracks would do,
I
Worf? I
know.
think
I
so.
know.
Slap around on those hardwood bunks.
Great songs will be sung about the silence of the defiant. But Cisco, as someone who's not only lived on DS9 for a long time, and you see him early on go through his process of learning how do you live on this like very
Mhm.
decrepit ship or space station. Not only can he mentor, does he give him feedback and mentor him through here's how you make it work on DS9. He's also giving him a lot of feedback like, look, you are now in a command role.
Mhm.
And if you're going to be a commander, you need to be with your crew. You
You set
can't
the
you
example.
can't
Yeah,
be out there.
yeah. Especially in tight quarters. Especially in a small, small units, small ship, small
Yeah.
tough ship, small station. Yeah,
Little.
little contingent among the. Yeah, you're not and the station isn't even all Starfleet, so it's. Yeah, I'm trying to sit here and think if we ever got a number of. I'm sure in the sidebars when they would evacuate the station. I'm sure somewhere there's some research or somebody drops a line about how many Starfleet are on the station, and it probably spiked in wartime anyway. So
Oh, probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I like Libby says Dr. LA just insulted Worf. He has dishonored Worf. This could get entertaining if Worf shows up. You know, Libby, where I'm hoping Worf shows up? I'm hoping Worf shows up in Lower Decks. I'm waiting for that to happen. I think it's
Hmm.
gonna happen. I got a feeling about it. And then Nathaniel said Curzon teaches Cisco, who teaches Jadzia and Ezri. I think Cisco teaches Worf a lot here too, and a lot of that. Um, the in some ways, Cisco has a lot to teach Worf about Klingonness as well.
Well,
um,
he's teaching him a lot. That was a lesson in command training, which he was a commander, but he came over from whatever he'd been doing, and he came aboard the station as a tactical officer. So
right,
but he
right.
kept being put into command. I mean, Kira. Let's say Nana had been. No, Kira had been. She had been a commander of terrorist of well organized terrorist cells, and she knew all, which is what she displays in the last season when they're all trying to help Cardassians who were used to following orders and not thinking outside
Right,
the box.
right.
To think outside the box that way. So she's, and Dax has all of her lifetimes to draw on and all that, and so yeah, and Miles has been around the block. Bashir's the green one too, but he
Oh
has
yeah.
he has his growth, episodes too. Anyway, so yeah, it's like as much as you think about Worf having screen time, not always. And that shot is from Rules of Engagement, where he's in command of the convoy, and they think he's killed civilians in a convoy, but it was a Klingon trick. But
A Klingon trick. Klingons do not trick.
some of them do. Yeah,
A Klingon tactical maneuver.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, moving on.
Page 3. Let's talk about Harry Kim here, and let's talk. Well, we're talking less about Harry Kim, or are we talking about Harry Kim?
This was from Nightingale when he got to, they'll joke about Harry Kim, aka Garrett Wang, not having any, never being, the forever ensign until he gets to be a captain in an alternate universe. That's erased. Um, and this is a case where he was doing some, finally 7 years in, he was doing some night shift bridge duty, but it was kind of boring. And he got thrown into the best kind of cooker, which is not exactly the playbook. So he's thrown onto that alien ship to help them with a command vacuum, and he learns a little bit about command. Anyway, that's what that was.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So there was that.
The ever-inspiring series of Voyager, which now we'll get yelled at, but yes.
Well, I was when I was thinking of on-the-job training, I was thinking a lot about B'Elanna
Hmm.
being put into that role of of a chief engineer.
Stable person. Oh,
Well, you see, like she is not Janeway's choice in those early season 1 episodes where they're trying to figure out, all right, who goes where, how are we going to divvy up the crew? And Chakotay is a real champion of B'Elanna because she really has the engineering chops. But what she doesn't have is the command leader, how to manage a team chops.
mhm.
The kind of stuff that is like so Starfleet is how to make a team work, blah blah blah. She's kind of used to being. This happens in a lot of teams where someone is really good at their role and they're kind of good in a silo, but they might not have the skills to sort of manage a team and manage other people and kind of lead in that way. And
Like Data in Redemption, not Redemption, in Klingon Civil War Part 2,
oh yeah,
learning the command ropes on the other ship under duress.
yes. Very much so. And so I think a lot of B'Elanna's journey is figuring out how to do that. And she gets some mentorship from
Redemption.
Chakotay. She gets
That's right.
some mentorship from Janeway. And a lot of it is lessons learned the hard way. And Janeway kind of like giving her some more chances and being like, you need to really stop having fights with the officers under your command because this is not good.
This is not good for unit cohesion, as they say these days. in the modern sense.
And obviously, we could talk about Seven as well. I mean, that would
Well,
there's so much there, but
she's like the Enterprise series. Her whole arc is about learning. So
yeah, and I lean less towards Seven on this because Seven is sort of a part of the crew, but she's not really Starfleet. Like it's weird. And the other person that kind of comes to mind is Tom Paris. He obviously goes through his own journey here of learning how to do things, and I think that's kind of he's trying to figure things out with the Delta Flyer as well. Trying to
right.
figure out how to make it work. The crew's kind of coming together for that. So I think those are some of the great stories there for Voyager on this.
There's one here. Dan, back about 20 minutes ago, was talking about Tuvok's training of the Maquis.
Oh yeah. I think that was the last episode, season 1.
Yes. Well, the last one they aired. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
which was weird. Like, why is this the season finale? But
Someday we'll have our theme about all being on the same page, because UPN and the producers were not on the same page for the first year of Voyager. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great episode as well. They were forced to really train up everyone they had because they didn't have a lot of people. So there's one more example we wanted to share before we kind of move forward into our next segment. But our two beloved characters from this past season of Star Trek Discovery, our beloved Saru and our beloved Admiral, what was his name? Larry?
Vance.
Admiral Vance. That's right.
I had to look it up just last night. So yeah.
Thank you for that. So in this moment, Saru is making a decision that is not really going to be too popular with the crew.
Yeah.
And he's sort of briefing the Admiral about it. And the Admiral's like, what are you doing? No, that is not what you do. You gotta protect your crew. You gotta care for your crew. You need to watch out for your crew. Like,
it's not a democracy, but hey, here's a case where it ought to be. Yeah.
Yeah. And Saru's really kind of taken aback by that, and kind of has to, and he realizes, okay, I guess I made the wrong choice here. But Larry, this is a wonderful example of not a bad moral, but a good moral.
A dadmiral.
A dadmiral.
Yeah.
But this ties back into what we talked about here with TOS, is officers who are further along in their journey and have more experience mentoring, supporting, shaping, giving you feedback about what is probably the better way to go down based on their experience. And we see that with this very newly minted captain.
Yeah. That's how you can tell the Dadmirals from day one is, are they doing anything besides saying shut up and they go back to their office? No. If they're actually trying to further the good of the service, and mentor people like that, that's at whatever stage they're at, that's probably a good sign.
Yeah.
Like Cornwell. Of course, she was a counselor, so it's in the blood, it's in the DNA, but
So that's I really love that moment with the two of them. Larry, any other examples you want to share before we jump into the next segment here?
No.
All right. Move it right along. Let's open up that counselor's log. This is the part of the show where I share a little bit more about some of the psychology that is behind the stuff we're talking about over here.
Did you put it up?
I did. It came and went.
See it. Okay.
Larry, I don't want to deprive you of our. There you go, Larry.
There we go.
I didn't. Another view of the counselor's log right over there.
Counselor's low. Okay.
The counselor's low. So, Larry, this is. I've been kind of teasing it right along here, but the one of the main ways in which we develop experts in whatever field it might be, whether it is art or whether it is command, is through a process called deliberate practice.
Or the art of command.
Or the art of command. That's...
however you want to frame it. Okay.
Rule number 1. Always follow the prime directive, except when it's inconvenient. Mm-hmm. That would be the art of command right over there. But deliberate practice is how we develop Olympians, is how we develop concert pianists. It's also how artists work, and it's also what was completely misrepresented in Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. So Malcolm Gladwell mostly focused. I know.
Okay. I know. I thought the same thing, and everyone I know did too.
If you had a CB really go on a soapbox, they could talk about Outliers. And one of the things that Outliers focuses a bit more on, or at least people took away from it, was the whole 20,000 hours kind of rule, or 10,000 hours, whatever he kind of mentions there. And the problem with that, the research that yes, Larry.
Is this a book we're talking about?
That is a book. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was a movie, and I didn't think it was a game, so I just wanted to check for all of us. Okay.
He wrote this book. Malcolm Gladwell wrote this book really about like exceptional people and how do they become exceptional? How do they become these experts? And the amount of time spent practicing became the headline from that. How much we want to blame him, how much we want to blame just the discussion around it, that can be a whole nother discussion. But the research that he was drawing from is called deliberate practice. And that research is not about the amount of time that you spend practicing, but it's the way you practice. And the best way to practice in order to get really good at something is to be able to practice the thing, get immediate feedback about your performance, and then have an opportunity to try again. Now, this can come in the form of a coach who is giving you feedback on how you're doing. It can come in the form of the training we see Spock go through in the beginning of Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, and he's working with this computer, and the computer is saying like, incorrect, correct, how do you feel? How do you feel? It can be that way. It can be through the form of training we see Troy get with her command training. It can be through the form of what Admiral Vance is doing with Captain Saru. But the main thing that's really important is to get that immediate feedback. This is how video games work too, Larry. Every first stage of a video game, if you fall in the wrong place, you have to restart, and you learned, oh, okay, I should do that earlier, or I should do that later, things like that. Now, the problem with most training experiences is we don't really get immediate feedback, if we get any feedback at all, and we
Right.
don't often have opportunities to try again. Um, this is the example I always share is like, it doesn't matter if you do like 50,000 hours of practicing a piano if no one ever tells you, you're holding the keys wrong, right? So, the best on the job training, the best training experiences are where someone